And
Okay.
you know what I've got to do? I've got to quickly press the got it button, or else I can't see your face or anything at all.
Okay.
So
Oh,
this
here you
is
go.
this is technical show, folks. Here we go. Right, that's better. Right. Okay.
So we've started with a bang. We've started with Stanley Kubrick in 2001.
Mm.
Um, the next song, when I saw it on the playlist, I recognized the name, but I didn't really know how it went. And I went off and listened to it on Google and realized it's an awesome song. It's used in the film The Right Stuff. And if you know The Right Stuff, you'll probably recognize the song. And it is Claire de Lune. And that's French for moonlight.
Yeah. So I was trying to think of things which were moon space related. I actually did find quite a lot in the end, and some very tenuous links as well. So I've tried to keep it to a very obvious links for you all this evening. So yeah, John's quite right. Translates as Moonlight, written by Claude Debussy somewhere between about 1909 1910, taken from Le Conte de Lille poem, and it's one of Debussy's most recorded pieces. Now, Debussy himself was notably a romantic composer. His pieces are just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. However, I may be quite forward in saying that I don't think the man himself was that romantic, and it appears to me that the one thing he lacked in life was probably empathy, because he had a number of high-profile affairs, broke off an engagement, and of course in that era you didn't do such things. And he also left his wife Rosalie Texier for Emma Bardac, and Emma Bardac and Claude Debussy actually had to flee Paris for England in 1905 after causing controversy in France. So you can use your imagination there with that one. This piece is gorgeous. I always put it in a recital, usually because it's so well known, people do know it. So here we have a bit of Moonlight for you this evening.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's happened already. I've got goosebumps already. And there's a comment from Andrew on the chat says a really tricky piece to play on the harp, and I think we can probably see that the amount of effort you're doing with your fingers. God knows what your feet were doing off the screen, but that was
Lots of
wonderful.
that.
And I have to say that when my youngest daughter Daisy was very young, I used to put her to bed, and I used to put on Classic FM for her, and I would often hear that on Classic FM late in the evening, and it just brings me to a happy place in my life, and it's a lovely piece of music, and you absolutely smashed it, Fiona. That was
Oh,
wonderful.
thank you. Well, it
Um,
was a bit of a debate whether to have that one first and then maybe ruin the mood by then having the Also Sprach Zarathustra afterwards, and I thought I can't do that. I've got to do it the other way round.
well, you know what? With my clunkiness, I've managed to not record also, didn't I? So we're starting with that one anyway, aren't we, on the recording?
We're starting with that. Yeah, yeah. We'll forget I said that. Yeah, sorry. Whoops.
Oh, that was wonderful. The next piece is a particular favorite of mine, and let me tell you a little bit about the composer James Horner. So James Horner's done a lot of movies, but didn't really come to eminence until his work on the 1982 film Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Great film. Um, he went on to score Titanic, the best-selling orchestral film soundtrack of all time. He wrote the score for the highest grossing film of all time, Avatar. And he also scored notable films such as Star Trek 3, Search for Spock, The Name of the Rose, Aliens, Field of Dreams, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, Braveheart, Mask of Zorro, Deep Impact, Beautiful Mind, and The Amazing Spider-Man. And of course, the best one he did is also for the best film, Apollo 13. And that's the reason we're here tonight, is that Fiona dropped her a version of Apollo 13, and it just was amazing. So I might mute myself or even go off video partway through this, because I might have to grab some tissues for my eyes, because this is such an emotional pull for me, this song. So I am really looking forward to this.
Hopefully, you'll be crying for the right reason. Okay.
Oh wow! Again, I mean, that
There
was
you go.
wonderful, wonderful. And of course, that's from it's called All Systems Go, the launch. And listening to that, I'm replaying the film in my head and all the parts of the film and the launch and the staging, and it's just so perfect. And so obviously a Ron Howard film, Apollo 13, and James Horner had collaborated with Ron Howard on two prior films, Cocoon and Willow. And he was a natural choice for the project, according to Ron Howard. And I've got a little quote here from James Horner on how he approached writing the score for this film. If you start off with a big score, it sets the audience up for just another sci-fi movie. Except this is a documentary. You know where it's going to end. What I was trying to get out of the story was idealism. Everything that was great in the guys at Mission Control and in the capsule, and the best thing about NASA. And that's a very elusive thing to bring out. But that's what I wanted, idealism, and in a very different way. And I think James Horner nailed the score for Apollo 13. And for me, it's a character in the film. And Fiona, you've absolutely done it justice. And it's wonderful to hear it being played live. It was fantastic.
Oh, bless you. And all down to a rainy wedding day because I was a bit bored. I'd turned up to a wedding early to play at. I was stuck in shall we say, a glorified shed down the end of a very long garden by myself because it started to chuck it down, so I couldn't go anywhere. And I thought, oh, I'll just record something. So I started off recording another space piece, which we're going to come to soonish. And then that was when I put it online. That was when John went, oh, that's great. Don't suppose you can do Apollo 13. So I had a quick look on good old Tinternet and found a piano version, and that's sort of what I've done with that version. It went from there. So I'm glad you approve. Good.
Well, it goes to show how talented you are as an artist that you can take piano music and you can convert it and play it on the harp in
Doesn't
such an
always work
amazing way.
for those that see me regularly on a Friday night on my Facebook page. It sometimes doesn't work at all whatsoever. I think one of the recent requests I had was Kung Fu fighting. That was quite tricky to do on a harp.
I can imagine. And I'm quite glad that isn't space themed.
No, we're not doing that tonight. No.
Oh, wonderful. So let's move on to the next piece that you've got arranged for tonight. And it's another very powerful piece of music. And again, it was used in The Right Stuff. And I probably will be going back to have another viewing of The Right Stuff after this, just so I can remind myself of all the great music in it. And it's The Planet's Jupiter by Gustav Holst. And
Yes.
you've probably all heard this before, but have you ever heard it live on a Zoom on a harp? Probably not. So here we go. This is our USB. So
and not as a harp solo, because usually you play it orchestrally and there'll be two harps, not just one.
well, actually, I have to say that I heard this many years ago in Portsmouth Guildhall, played by the Royal Marine Band. They had a night at the movies with the whole Royal Marine Band, and I sat there, and some astronauts came up and sat next to me, and I was desperately trying to play it cool. And I realized at that point that live orchestral music just has a channels into my soul. And so I'm looking forward to hearing this again. But you're taking on this whole thing on your own. They had a whole band, they had a whole orchestra going on, and this is just you. I'm sure it's gonna be just as wonderful.
In a way, I prefer it when it's just me. I'm not being egotistical there. I'm just used to playing solo, so I find orchestral things and ensemble things actually harder than playing solo. So there we are. I spoke to a very, very good colleague of mine today who's like an encyclopedia of harp knowledge and little nuggets of information. And I said, have you got anything interesting to say about Jupiter, the planet's Gustav Holst? And he told me this. So, 2 facts. Gustav Holst's earthly remains are in Chichester Cathedral due to him being so fond of it. And the next one is there are 2 huge harp parts that run all the way through Gustav Holst's Planet Suite. And rumour has it, and they were very, very hard, and they are very hard actually, and rumour has it that the second harpist was so terrified that she ran away and didn't go back for the concert. So famous harpist Mary Goossens had to sight read the whole lot, and she's quoted as saying, it was all fine until they got to the movement called Mercury in the piece. Now that is hard. So hats off, and I'm going to thank Alex Ryder for letting me know those little nuggets of information. That was very kind of him. So you can have a think of a second harpist running away terrified. So I've had to do my own version. I am not a 60-piece orchestra, as you can tell. And I must say, at the moment, you've heard me say this before, those who know me, I've only got 2 feet. So what with the pedal movements and fingers and everything going on, sometimes you cannot transpose things and try and be a pop band or a string quartet or an orchestra. So I've had to transpose this in my own way. So this is my version of Jupiter, the bringer of jollity.
Wonderful, again, wonderful. And that movement is to portray Jupiter's supposedly characteristic abundance of life and vitality with music that is buoyant and exuberant. So there you go. And I've got a little fact. Thank you for bringing the class, Fiona, but I've got another fact for you about Jupiter. It was also in the 2005 Aardman animation film with Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
I love Wallace and Gromit.
So there you
I've been
go.
watching Shaun the Sheep recently. It's fantastic.
It's surprising where these things pop up. And that was wonderful. And do you know what? If you had played that music, people, I think a lot of people would say they recognise it, but I don't know how many would say it was Jupiter, because I think it's been rebadged and changed and used for other things since. I know that rugby used it for a while, didn't they? The World in Union and all those things.
It has been used quite a lot, and I think obviously when you get such a powerful sort of piece of music, everyone goes, "Oh, I really like that. I'll have that." One thing in mind that springs to mind with the work I do play a lot of weddings, functions, and people always come up and they usually say, "Really like this piece of music. It starts off slow, it's got a bit in the middle, and you see them move their hands," and I go, "Canon in D by Pachelbel." And then you go, yeah, that's it. And it's funny, you can sort of read what people think sometimes. So yeah, it's one of those. And Pachelbel's Canon in D, that's been used for a lot of film, advert music, etc. So I think you're quite right there. It's been pilfered in varying styles, shall we say?
Well, that's a great way to lead on to the next piece we've got. Actually, it's a piece from composer Aram. Go on, you say it, Fiona.
Katachurian.
Kratagurian. I've been tripping over this all day, and it's Adagio from Gagné's.
Oh, don't
I'm
ask
sorry,
me.
ballet.
I get that one
Now,
wrong all the time.
I know that James Horner has quoted from this piece in some of his film scores, including Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, and Aliens. So this was used in 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it's probably going to be familiar to people because it's popped up in other films used by other composers.
Mm. It's taken from his it's a 4-part ballet. Now I was trying to find little bits to do with him. So just a couple of little snippets. So he was Soviet Armenian composer and conductor, and this piece was written in or around about 1939, and it was first produced in Yerevan, which means happiness. And Khachaturian held several high posts in the Union of Soviet Composers. Get that. After being approved by the Soviet government from the late 1930s. So yeah, it's he obviously had a bit of clout, which is good because I think you were either in or you were out. This one's lovely. It's very spooky. Now, just to go through something technical with the harp, fall asleep at will. But I have got, towards the end, I've got 7 bars of music. In those 7 bars of music, I have got to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 pedals with 2 feet whilst playing the strings at the same time. So my get out clause is this is either going to go very right at the end or it's going to go very wrong at the end, like a big meteor's crashed through the whole thing. So let's hope it does the first one and goes very right. So, as John said, this is Adagio from Khachaturian's Gagné Ballet.
Wonderful.
There
So
we
how
are,
did it go,
nice and
Fiona? I didn't think there was anything wrong with that at all. Sounded
no,
good
nor
to
did
me.
I. Phew.
Well done, well done, and wonderful. What a lovely, relaxing piece of music, and it is familiar from 2001. Um,
It's a bit of a spooky film, and I think with 2001 they, from what I've read, that because I've only watched it a couple of times and just found it really phenomenal. In the fact that it's sort of, in a way, that and Apollo 13, which of course was real, so to speak, based on a true story, just people's worst nightmares. Just it really just plays into it. I don't know why we
yeah,
watch these things really,
yep,
but with that they deliberately didn't have a lot of dialogue in 2001 and had actually more orchestral pieces than dialogue, which I think actually we've all done it. You watch a horror film, or well, I don't, but it's something scary. If you turn the music off, if you put something lovely behind it, it wouldn't be so scary. It's the music that can really creep you out, and I think that's quite telling, that one.
definitely. And it's funny you should say that because our next piece is continuing that theme of spookiness, um, and it's from Jerry Goldsmith. And I'm not going to name the film because I think what it might be quite good to do with this one is to have you play it and then see if people can recognize it. So Jerry Goldsmith was the composer on a number of other films, such as the Star Trek franchise, Rambo franchise, Logan's Run, another of my favorite films, Planet of the Apes, Tora Tora Tora, Patton, Chinatown, Alien, Poltergeist, Gremlins, Hoosiers, Total Recall, Air Force One, LA Confidential, Mulan, and The Mummy. Now, that was a list of Jerry Goldsmith's films, not a list of the DVDs that are on my shelf. Um, so perhaps I will leave the next piece from you, from Jerry Goldsmith, to play, and we'll see if we can recognize
We'll
it.
play Name That Tune. Just a
Yeah,
couple of bits to say with this. So he used a really weird array of instruments, things you usually wouldn't get. A didgeridoo, and also a serpent, which is a 16th century type. It looks like a very, very big bent clarinet. It sort of does that. Look up the instrument serpent, absolutely fantastic. So how spooky. I've watched this film once. Never again, thank you very much. Just like to put it out there before I say to any friends that are watching, I might watch some of those films again, they can say, no, don't watch this one. The music has been quite hard to get. I think I spent 3 hours writing out bits and pieces because I managed to find a vague piano version online. It's insanely spooky. This is the spookiest out of the whole lot, I think, this one. So here we go. Name that tune.
Super. I'm going to clap again. So there's a spooky piece of music from a spooky film, and some of you might have seen the clue I held up during that. Is of course Alien.
I caught the back end of it. I was like, "What's that?" At the corner of my
Well,
eye, I could see.
for me, I think that actually the visuals that go along with the music in the film really go together. And perhaps I wanted to give you a chance to think about the film and the music together, because I've listened to a movie podcast recently where they've discussed the Goldsmith score from Alien as being one of the characters in the film, and without that music, it would be an entirely different film. So it gives me chills in not the same way that Apollo 13 gives me chills. It makes me a little bit. It's not. I'm not really a horror fan, to be honest with you.
No, no, it makes me wary. I think I watched it at a younger age than probably you should watch it, and yeah, no, not a good idea. No.
Well, I would recommend it just for the music alone, because you will realise that the music is absolutely perfect, and
It,
you did
it,
it.
it,
You did it.
yeah, he really gets it going. And again, with the instruments that he used, it wasn't your usual sort of violin just sort of slowly creeping away. He uses some really unusual instruments in it. So yeah, it is a great film, but I
Yeah.
can't watch that again. No,
Then there's a
that's a no
message
for
from
me.
Paul P on the chat, says it's a very moody but works so well on the harp. And yeah, I agree, it does
Oh,
work so
thank
well. And
you.
I think that's also due to the effort you've put in the background to make these things work
There's
on
a
the harp.
lot of pedaling going on in that one. I'm glad it's not fast, because I don't think it would work. I wouldn't be able to get my feet round in time. And you've just got to remember what key you're in at the beginning and which one you're moving to next and stuff. So thank you, Paul. That's appreciated.
And Nicole has said she watched Alien 2 days ago, so it's fresh in her mind. So there we go. We've just
No,
scared her.
why?
Look,
Why?
watch out for face huggers, is all I'll say.
No. One of my cats, when I had cats, one of my cats used to be a face hugger. Just sort of, when I used to sleep, she had to sort of sleep right there, and you'd wake up to floofy paws or
Didn't wake up with
some.
any pain in your chest though, did you?
No, no. Well, if the other one slept on me, he was quite fat. So yes, if my other cat slept on me, then yeah, you get the dual thing going on. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. So the next piece is from a more recent space film, and I've seen this one quite a lot. And for me, it had to grow on me. I was still reeling from Gravity. Gravity still put me off space films for a while, and then a film called Interstellar turned up, um, and the score was composed by Hans Zimmer. And it's not in my top 5 space movies, but if it's on the TV, I will watch it. And I think it's probably because of the score. I think the music that accompanies the film is probably one of the best things about it, and it is on my playlist of music I listen to when I'm working.
Okay.
And it is really, really wonderful music, and I love it. I can't tell you why, but it just gives me chills.
It's a fantastic piece. I know this is Mr. Nigel Vors who's watching. This is one of his favourite pieces, and yeah, I was like, oh, I hope Nigel joins in this evening because he gets to hear it again. So this is one of his faves. I managed to find a couple of bits about Hans Zimmer, who wrote this piece of music for the film. I've seen the film once. I must admit, I struggle with the vastness of space. So don't put me anywhere near the Grand Canyon or anything like that. It's just too big. Things that are too big, I can't. No, can't deal with that. So I've watched Interstellar. Haven't seen Gravity, probably for that very reason. But a couple of things about Hans Zimmer. He had an interview with the Mashable in February 2013, and Zimmer said of his parents that his mum was very musical, and his father was not just an engineer but an inventor. So his mum would despair because Hans would put things like chainsaws and stuff all over the piano to get different notes, and his dad would be standing there going, "Yeah, that's brilliant," because he just thought that was superb, being an inventor and an engineer. So that's absolutely fantastic. And I found out a science fact connected with Hans Zimmer. Here we go. So in November 2017, a main belt asteroid numbered 495253 2013 OC underscore with a funny little 8 at the bottom. I don't know how you say that. This was discovered by Polish astronomers Mikhail Kusiak and Mikhail Zolnowski. And it was named Hans Zimmer. So Hans Zimmer has an asteroid belt named after him. I mean, that's just That's quite right. It's quite right when you listen to this piece of music as well. So, shall I crack on and play my version of Interstellar?
Please. Superb. Yeah, it's haunting, that piece, isn't it? It just reminds me of the film, reminds me of how I felt when I watched it. Such a lovely piece of music. And that's the kind of thing that I think if I was a composer, that's the kind of thing I want to produce. It's just incredible that can come out of a human being's brain. It's amazing.
It's just superb, isn't it? It's just like, whoa. And actually, the music I found is very simple. So I'll tell you I'll tell you a little story from last month. So happened to walk around where I lived and I thought, oh, blackberries. Went home, got a bag, went out blackberry picking. This is related, don't worry, it's not all about my expeditions of picking fruit in my local roads. And basically I stood there and I thought, oh, crikey, there's an ambulance or a fire engine or an emergency service coming really close, really loud, really fast. And I didn't realise I'd recorded this piece on one of my Facebook Live things and my phone in my bag had just started playing it. So the beginning bit, and I stood around for ages waiting for this ambulance to go past and realised it was this. So now whenever I play it, it's ruined because I always think of Nino sort of coming towards me at a rate of knots.
And you've probably got 20 people here tonight are now going to refer to that as the Nino song whenever they hear it.
Sorry, I've ruined it for everybody now, haven't I? Oh dear.
Look, I am a bit worried about time. We're getting close to the end of the hour and we've still got another... what have we got? Another 4 pieces in the list.
Right, let's cram them in. Let's cram them in. Right, next one.
So we've got... Do you want to do number 9?
No, I haven't got them numbered. Which one's number 9? Hang on. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
It's that
4,
bunch
5,
of
6.
Liverpudlians.
Are we talking about a John Barry piece.
No, we're talking about the Beatles.
Oh, that's all right then. Yeah, good. Right,
Do you want to do that, or do you want to skip that?
Yeah, no, that's the one I was going to do, and then I can't count, clearly, being a musician, so sorry about that. Yes.
Do you want to do that one? Well, we've got to save time for number 11, the one that happened in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago.
Away. Oh, yeah, we've got to have that one. a little fact, the reason I'm playing a Beatles tune, it is space related, because just quickly, this story is based on the astronaut love triangle between Lisa Novak, who was a NASA astronaut, her, I think, ex-husband, and his new girlfriend. And she's the first, Lisa Novak is the first astronaut ever to get arrested. There we are. Do a quick version. That's why I chucked it in. There we are. Don't say I don't entertain. Right, let's have a bit of this.
Nice. Do you know what? I had no idea that that song would be so good on a harp. I mean,
well, it's shorter because I didn't realise the time, to be quite honest with you. Apologies. There's me and John earlier going, you don't want it to go over the hour. Definitely not.
Well, we had almost exactly 30 minutes of music of playing time for Fiona tonight. We've managed to pad everything else out with chat, so I'm sorry.
Fail. Right. Next one.
Now, do you want to try and plough through the list, or do you want to pick something from this list? What do you reckon?
What have we got going on? What have we got going on towards the end? We've only got 3 more, so
we've got 3 more, and we've got 1 minute left until we're on the hour. I mean, I'm happy to go over a couple of minutes because we didn't start exactly on the time.
Is everybody else happy to? Put it in the chat if you are. If not, and you'd rather go to bed, then please do.
We're not going to hold you ransom. You can leave if you have to, but we will record it right to the end.
Yes, right. Let's plough through them. We're going to have a bit of John Barry with a 6'2" actor, or 6'4" actor, and apparently, we all know John Barry, 6'4" actor. We're talking Jaws. We're talking Moonraker. And apparently the kids kept writing in saying, why can't Jaws be a goodie instead of a baddie? Which is why in this film, he was a goodie in the end and found love with a very diddy lady friend. So here we go. That's cool. What a great synopsis. Wow. I should be a film critique.
Spot on though. Spot on.
Here we go. You've gone all quiet, John. I can't hear you.
That's because I was muted.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I was clapping, and I'm glad I was muted because I was doing my best Shirley Bassey along with that, and
Oh, were you?
I hope I wasn't the
Fantastic.
only one.
You said that Shirley Bassey. That was the last film she sang on as well. There we are.
There you go.
Right, shall we whiz along?
Let's move on now. The next one I have to apologise for. It's one of my favourite songs ever. It has been a ringtone on my phone in the past, and it is a terrible earworm. Now maybe the harp version won't be so bad, but it's a terrible earworm. John Williams, Star Wars, but probably not the song you're thinking we're going to do.
No, this is very pedally. We've got pedal slides, we've got all sorts of stuff going on, so I'm going to do my best with this one. Here we go. A bit of Cantina Band.
It's an amazing piece of music. Oh,
It's fab.
if someone had said to me when I was a 3-year-old watching Star Wars for the first time that 40-something years later I'd be sitting online listening to someone play it live on a harp, I wouldn't have believed you. So apparently, according to the internet, George Lucas said to John Williams, "You need to write some music. Can you imagine several creatures in a future century finding some 1930s Benny Goodman swing band music in a time capsule under a rock someplace, and how they might attempt to interpret it?" And that is what John Williams came up with. So I'm learning swing jive at the moment. I think I might put that on the playlist. See how that goes.
Get your trumpet out from use that. That'll do. You've done it now. We want to see trumpet next.
Oh dear, what have I said?
Right, final piece. We were debating how to pronounce this gentleman's surname. So we want to say Alexander Courage, but it might be Courage. Who knows? Take your pick with this one. Yeah, this is the last one of the evening. There are questions. If you've got any questions, I'll come closer if you've got any questions. But yeah, if not, thanks for joining us this evening, and thanks to John as well for actually saying the suggestion. As soon as I saw it on Twitter, I was like, yes, got to do this.
No, thank you to you. You are a professional musician and you've come along for free tonight to entertain us, so we all massively appreciate it.
It's all good. It's been good fun. So this again, this is going to go very wrong or very right. I've got to make sure I don't do this too fast, because this is my version of the music by Alexander Courage and the theme from Star Trek, and underneath it says Bright Galactic Beguine. So it sounds a bit like a pudding, so I'm going to try and do my best with getting your taste buds going with this one.
wonderful. Oh, it's such a wonderful arrangement of such a recognizable piece of music. And it's lovely to hear it played on the harp. It really is. Um, there is another version of that song out there, though. And I shared this with Fiona earlier. Um, the one and only Uhura, Nichelle Nichols, did a disco version of that song with lyrics in the 1970s. And yes, it is available out there on YouTube. So go
I'm going
find
to
it.
watch it, and that's the first thing I'm going to watch as soon as I get off this tonight. I'm watching
And I've
that.
watched it, and yes, it is as terrible as you think it's going to be.
Yeah, but sometimes these things are so terrible, they're good. And
Yep.
I think with all these things, music, especially for myself through the pandemic, I found some absolute stunners, and I found some absolutely dreadful things which are just too funny not to play on harp, because it's not really done, and it just gives everyone a bit of brightness, a bit of light when it just all seems a bit dreary at the moment. So yeah, it's good.
Well, you've certainly brought some light to my evening, and it's. I didn't know how this was going to go, how it was going to be, but it blown away my expectations. Fantastic! I really
Oh,
enjoyed that,
bless
and
you.
I
Thank
know I said
you.
there was room for Q&A, so I don't know if anybody's got any really burning questions they want to
I
ask
shall
Fiona.
come closer so I can see people a bit better. Hang on.
So if you've got a question, feel free to unmute yourself and speak, or you can type in the chat. Or if you've got no questions, you're free to leave. We're not going to hold you here.
Yeah, you don't have to have questions. You can unmute yourself and have a question if you like. I don't mind. Any questions? They're all quiet now.
They're all quiet now. Look.
To sleep.
No, I'm going to ask a question if that's okay.
Excellent.
Love it, by the way. Brilliant.
Thank you.
What's your favourite piece to play?
Oh, this is really, really tough. I got very obsessed with 19th century Spanish composers, as you do, throughout lockdown. And Albéniz is one of my favourites, along with Chiavari, Torrega as well. One of my ultimate favourite pieces has to be a sonata, and that is by Respighi. And I absolutely love Respighi's sonata, and it comes from a book of 6, and I've listened to the other 5 and I don't like them. I only like number 3, and that's probably one of my favourites at the moment. Yeah. Oh,
At the moment, so your favourites change as you go along. Then do they? The new things pop in.
I just seem to collect lots and lots and lots. Really, to be quite honest. Oh, that's my favourite. I love Satie, Eric Satie. He was well ahead of his time. He really was. Chopin, Debussy. You've got Grieg, Elgar. If you want something really relaxing to listen to, I would say listen to Elgar's Sospiri. That translates as sigh. My dad's just put, can I see the football now? Yes, you can see the football now. Oh my God. Right. Yes, you can see the football now. Off you go.
That wasn't the kind of questions we were expecting, but you're released,
really.
Mr. Hosford.
Now, Nicole Koenig has got a question. If you had to play a duet, which instrument, besides John with a trumpet, would you choose? Do you know, I really love cello. Really love cello. Nice and smooth. It's got quite a deep sound. So I've got 4 harps, and all 4 of them I've bought because of the sound of them. And yes, I'm even more noise sensitive after the pandemic now, so I'm like, oh no, everyone be quiet. I'm just enjoying the calm, the peace, the quiet where I can get it. So I think definitely cello springs to mind. I do love oboe as well. That works really well. One of my very, very good friends watching this evening plays, and I've played oboe with him. That's rather lovely. Yes, Nigel, I did oh crikey, who remembers the tune Making Plans for Nigel, XTC? I actually did that as a request for Nigel. So that's how sort of diverse my requests can get. Any other questions? I'm going to have a quick scoot backwards and just see if there are any. People have been very lovely. Thank you very much.
Some lovely comments in the chat there, Fiona. I've got one request.
Yeah.
It's a social media thing. If anybody wants to put their camera on and smile, so we can take a screenshot of everybody being happy and smiling, that would be great. And you don't have to put your cameras on if you don't want to put your cameras on.
No, that's all right.
But if you're there and you want to put your camera on and join us for a smiley selfie, happy, I'll take a screenshot, and I'm going to get up the tool I'm going to use to take the shot, and I'm going to count you down because I need to click and look at the camera at the same time. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Good. Have you got my best side?
Well, you're not sat at your harp, but it'll do.
I'll go and hide behind it usually.
Right. I'm going to just quickly hide that in the background and say another thank you to you, Fiona, for doing this. It's been wonderful, and I didn't really grasp how much time you'd have to spend preparing yourself and the pieces to do this and converting them from other music. So I really, really appreciate it.
I've got a piece of paper somewhere. I've recycled it now because I've worked out what I was doing. It's literally just scribbling down ideas, and you just chuck the ideas out. I did an art degree as well, so I think I'm used to, with art degree, when we had to change our subject matter every 4 to 5 weeks, you've got to be creative and get the ideas out. So that's probably where it's come from, I suspect.
Well, you are a wonderfully talented musician, and I really appreciate you coming and joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone listening. There's a few peeps that I know, so thank you for the time out to listen. I was a bit concerned. I was thinking everyone's probably zoomed out now from the pandemic, but it's nice that we can still be online doing this. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you to all.